Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome to the WP Builds podcast once more. This is episode 157 entitled Honey Traps for Website Clients. It was published on Thursday the 5th of December 2019. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and just before we begin, a few bits of housekeeping. We always like to share some links over on WP Builds just so that you can keep in touch with all the things that we're doing, and we do quite a lot related to the WordPress community. So the first page is wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Over there you're going to find a whole bunch of ways that you can keep in touch with all the content that we put out. So for example, you can subscribe to us on your favourite podcast player. You can find our Facebook group and YouTube channel and so on and so forth. There's a couple of forms to fill out should you like to be kept up to date with what we're putting out in terms of podcasts, but also the news that we put out each and every Monday. So that's wpbuilds.com/subscribe. The other one is wpbuilds.com/black. Now, believe it or not, even though Black Friday and Cyber Monday have gone, we've still got quite a few offers on that page. So that's wpbuilds.com/black. Just in case you've got any cash left in your wallet that you want to get rid of, go and check that page out because there might still be something which is up for grabs. Some of them are running for several weeks after the traditional Black Friday sales have finished. And the other one is wpbuilds.com/advertise should you wish to put your product or service on the WP Builds podcast and get some attention about your WordPress specific plugin, service, theme, etc. And a few people that have done that are these guys. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by WP Feedback. Our client communication's eating up all of your time. If so, check out WP Feedback. It's a visual feedback tool for WordPress that is specifically designed to get you and your clients on the same page. You can check out wpfeedback.co for more details. And Cloudways. Cloudways is a managed cloud-based hosting platform for WordPress. Unlike others, they let you choose the servers from top cloud providers like Google Cloud, Amazon, and DigitalOcean. There are no restrictions on the number of websites per server. And you can try Cloudways using promo code WPBuilds and you'll get $20 free hosting credit. And finally, Page Builder Cloud. Work faster in your page builder of choice by reusing your cloud save templates. Import and export any layout to any of your WordPress websites. Page Builder Cloud works with Elementor, Beaver Builder, Breezy, Gutenberg, and many more. And you can get a free trial up and running today at pagebuildercloud.co. And we really do thank all of our sponsors for helping support the WP Build podcast. They really do make a great difference. Okay, just a quick reminder. I always somehow manage to leave this till the end, and I thought maybe I should mention it at the beginning. On a Monday, we put out a about 30-minute news episode. Maybe you've heard that. I sum up the WordPress weekly news for the previous week. And also in the Facebook group and also live on the WP Builds website, so that's wpbuilds.com/live, or the Facebook group is wpbuilds.com/Facebook. You can join us. I'm joined by usually 3 WordPressy people, and we chat through the news, and it's very entertaining. We get quite a lot of engagement in the comments, but yeah, it's always nice to have a larger audience. So if you want to join us for that, that's Mondays in the afternoon, 2 p.m. UK time. Okay, let's get stuck into the main content today. So this is episode 157. It's a discussion with David Wormsley and I. It's based upon the book Watertight Marketing by Bryony Thomas, and in this one we tackle the subject of honey traps for website clients. Now the idea of this really is based upon the fact that usually you want to try something before you buy it. So you want to buy some shoes, you want to try them on, you want to buy a phone, you want to play with it first. How do we do that when what we're offering is a website? Surely we can't build it and let them play with it. Well, maybe there's some other ideas, and that's what this podcast is about. I hope you enjoy it.
This discussion we're calling Honey Traps for Website Clients. And this discussion is another in a series inspired by the book Watertight Marketing by Bryony Thomas. Very quickly, the book we are using or ripping off shows us 13 areas, or leaks as the book calls them, where businesses can lose potential customers or clients. So we thought each of these would make a good discussion topic in its own right, and it might be helpful for our business or in our roles as providing digital marketing help for clients. So conceptually, we are working up an imaginary funnel starting at the narrowest point at the bottom to the widest point at the top. And we've already discussed some leaks. So we started with forgotten customers at the bottom of our funnel. These are the people that we may have neglected, our existing customers, and they might not know what else that we do. There's poor onboarding, not realizing that new customers are on high alert and need to be smoothly welcomed in to the point where they really trust us and see themselves as our customers. Lastly, we did no emotional connection, which is more about our brand identity and connecting with potential customers. And now we are moving on to what she calls no gateway. Nathan, do you want to explain what she's talking about with no gateway?
First of all, congratulations for getting through that summation of everything that we've done over the last 3 discussion episodes. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, so this is a really interesting topic. First of all, David has actually read this book, whereas I'm sort of like just sucking his knowledge up and trying to stay along for the ride. But it's really interesting. So the gateway is the idea of being able to try something before you kind of commit to it, I suppose, in a way. And the commit in our business, I guess, is large sums of money, committing to spending a lot of money on a product. And the analogy that David wrote down for me is kind of like trying on clothes. So there is literally no way of purchasing clothes effectively other than trying them on. Now, I know that in this day and age with infinite returns, where you can buy something and return it, you can iterate through 1,000 different variations of a pair of trousers or a jacket or whatever it might be. But the best way of knowing is to actually wander into a shop, try several on, and then eventually say, yes, that's the one. It's completely tangible. You figure it out. But we in the sort of online selling website space, we don't have an equivalent, or at least it's not entirely obvious what an equivalent might be. So that's kind of what this is about. The persuasion of trying before you buy is very, very effective. But what on earth could we possibly give away or let them try before they actually slap down the money for the website? Is that about right? Yeah. Is that what a gateway is?
Yeah, I think that was a good cover of what she's talking about. There's a couple of other concepts that she's thrown in as well, which we ought to cover, because I think what we talk about will be rubbish and the stuff in the book is so much better. But she talks about being able to offer a product ladder. So this is a complementary set of products or services that can lead from an initial lower value to the thing where you're going to make some profit on it. So you've got something that you can kind of lead people up. So I guess that is one of the problems, isn't it? Getting that kind of first payment from somebody with anything that you're selling.
Have you got an example of what a product ladder actually looks like in the real world? So where you're sort of trying to get people to sort of gradually step up. How might that look? Even if it's nothing to do with online, it could be a real world one or an online one.
Yeah, well, she's got a little chart actually, which gives some examples, and we know it, I think, anyway, certainly when it comes to knowledge business and that kind of thing, marketing and consultancy. So she's got something like a free online tool. So you might have a mini audit, which is something which I know a lot of people do offer, don't they? They offer a website audit on people's sites. So some people are doing that. You and I aren't doing it, are we?
No, I don't really do that. But anyway, we'll come to that later. But yeah, good idea. So is that like at the lowest rung of the ladder, if you like, just some way of hooking people in, and you're kind of giving them well, you're not really trying out the website building service. You're just trying out whether you and they fit, whether the way that they communicate works for you, whether you get along with each other. That's really what that's about. And then it's sort of thinly disguised as giving incredible value, where probably it's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the example she gives, so it would be like an online tool. So the mini audit would be your sort of free, I guess, off. And then the paid thing could be a sort of audit and report. So a 3-day marketing audit that you could do. So that would be a lower level cost. And then you might move into a consulting exercise a longer period. But that could be about the whole building of a site, couldn't it, effectively? If that first audit is about what needs to be changed with your site, you could slowly lead up to the new site that needs to be built. So, yeah, I think some people are employing that kind of thing. I have a bit of an issue with it.
It isn't something that I do, but I do like the idea of sort of slowly. Well, I suppose it's in a bit way. It's like warming people up, isn't it? You give them something. In this case, your free online audit tool, something very straightforward, presumably mostly or completely automated. They fill out a form and it gives out some prescribed answers or whatnot, and then you kind of move them up and you say, look, this is slightly automated. We can do a much better job if you give us a little bit of money, and we'll dedicate some actual human resource into this, and then keep going up and up and up and upselling until eventually the goal is the website, I guess.
Yeah, don't you think some people though do offer the free website audit as a manual job, that they're actually going to give them a report on their, they're going to look over their site. I mean, they've probably got something pre-filled and they know what they're looking for in terms of problems.
Yeah, but I expect that's true. In my case, I just don't do that. I would I'd happily look over their site, but this is probably a trick that I'm missing, in that I would probably ask for some kind of fee in exchange for that, just because it takes time. But this is where that discussion is, isn't it? This is about the value that you give for free, and obviously if you are really in need of clients and this is something that's consuming your thoughts, why not give something away for free? Presumably you don't spend hours and hours and hours on this free audit. You just do a fairly templated job, tick some boxes, examine a few pages of the site and what have you, because, well, we don't want to give away everything for nothing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we talked before this, and in a way, you've blown out this whole conversation, because you said that most people come to you already knowing that they kind of want to work with you. It's the referrals. So there's almost no need for you to spend any time on a gateway, is there?
Yeah, in my case, and if you've listened to this podcast before, you'll know that my business is primarily a local business where local sites are built for local customers. And I live in a fairly small town. It's not minuscule, but it's big enough to support me. And the sort of outlying villages and towns and what have you are big enough to support what I do. And so word of mouth has been the most effective tool for me. And I was saying to you before we began this call, I got an email just the other day where somebody said, we're needing a website, and your name kept coming up, so we're getting in touch with you. So in that sense, I'm working on the basis that I hope, at least, the fact that my name in inverted commas kept coming up is enough reassurance, let's use that word, reassurance that they can trust me. Yeah, and I really don't do a great deal of this stuff, but I know that because you've pivoted recently, you don't have that same local feel to your business. You're going for the global market. You are going to have to spend some time thinking about this stuff, and I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people who are listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, mine is the opposite problem, because it was fine for a while when I was working with a colleague who was based where I used to live. So we were working on client projects there. Now I'm out and about. I'm needing to top up with new clients. Now, fortunately, I'm okay, because existing clients have either been passing on new work to me, or I'm getting some referrals, so it's enough to keep me going. But I'm certainly aware that I kind of need to branch out, and it's a global market to me now, because I'm just not located anywhere. I don't have that connection. I'm not going to, ask Bob the plumber, who does his website, because I'm not going to see Bob the plumber and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so I really do need some of these gateways. I need some way of attracting people in at a low risk, because it's all about the risk, isn't it?
Yeah, just a slightly bizarre question, and maybe a sort of slightly controversial question. I don't know. is any of this particular stuff, is there any sort of disingenuousness to it? I don't know if disingenuousness is a word. Is it disingenuous? In other words, are you claiming to offer in any of this, do you believe, something of value which really isn't? Or is it simply just sort of like a lead magnet? In other words, if you were to, let's say you do your online mini audit or whatever it might be, does it stand alone? Is there actually enough value in it for somebody to then go off to another person and say, look, I've had this audit done, these are the things that I need doing, look, can you make a head start on my website? Or are we simply doing this as a mechanism to provide enough what's the word? You're trying to sort of get them into your process so that they feel, okay, I can trust them. There's not quite enough in the document that I'm holding to go with, so I'll step up and I'll pay for the next level. So is it an audit in the sense of, let's take an example. If I pay for my house to be surveyed, which in the UK is like some kind of legal requirement, that survey has to be portable. After I've received it and hold it in my hand, I should be able to go to any estate agent or what have you, any lawyer, any mortgage company and say, look, there it is. That's everything that you need to know to crack on. Do we have the same here, or are we just offering a little tantalizing bit?
Yeah, I don't know what people offer. And I have another problem with it as well, because just the way I am cynical is that I feel if I did have a website, I don't know if I'd want to take somebody up on that, because I would feel duty bound really to give any work that needed to be done to that person. Perhaps other people wouldn't. So it would prevent me from engaging in the whole system. Even if I thought a website review might be a good thing, I do want somebody to look over it. Also, I might just be worried that if they're offering this for free, it's going to take up their time. Then they're looking for some payback. So they're probably going to look for problems, aren't they? So it's like if my car's working, I take it into a garage, are they going to just find problems because I'm there, Yeah,
that is interesting. I suspect that a proportion of people do view a lot of these offers through that prism. And so, some people are going to see it in a different light and with a different spirit, and they'll say, oh, that's great. Great. Somebody's going to take a look at my website and give me some data back. And of course, there'll be a proportion that feel that, oh, goodness me, no, that's clearly disingenuous. It's a lead magnet. They're just trying to suck me in for some more work, blah, blah, blah. And I suppose what we need is a whole array of different techniques, not just a website audit, a whole ton of different gateway offers, and maybe we'll get onto that.
Yeah, it's not the one that I would pick. I mean, I think I mentioned before that I really want to put some time together to put a little freebie course together that I can use that would be helpful to existing clients, but also be a lead magnet. So, a kind of email funnel that just would stand on its own. That talks a little bit about just very quick fixes they can do to their websites to perhaps improve their conversion rates and that kind of thing.
You do quite a lot of videos, don't you? I know that you do a lot of videos. Now, it's slightly strangely, those videos are all, well, certainly the ones that I've watched, they're aimed at people who clearly would never need your products or services, because you're explaining the sort of minutiae of Beaver Builder layouts and the options within a module and so on and so forth. But have you strayed more into that yet? The novice client kind of videos, and if so, have you found them to be well received, viewed, commented on?
No, I haven't, and I want to. But I think for my website, if I could have a little, sign up to this and get this little course, and it would be private videos for that I'd like to do. But, I think it would be a very easy thing to do. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the concept, anybody, I guess, could do this. You just have to think of those kind of 5-minute things you can explain to somebody about little changes they can make on their website, just understanding how our proposition value works or something, to put your header there, or just, I don't know, just there's a whole bunch of tiny little things which I wrote down somewhere, which I just thought that could make a nice little series that would stand alone. And hopefully the idea is that it's a little bit of see before you try it out, or just try before you buy, rather. With that, because at least it gives them some indication that you might know some stuff.
Yes. Yeah, and I suppose if somebody's arrived on your website, depending on the kind of the way it's been optimized, the SEO that you've put into it and what have you, you are going to hopefully know a little bit about the problem that they're experiencing. So as an example, I don't know, if you've got a care plan web page where the SEO is clearly all about problems with websites, it might be that they've ended up on that particular page because of they've got a problem with their website. Something's broken and they need a quick fix. So the thing that you offer, the video that you offer, might be different on that page to your, I don't know, generic homepage where you are offering something a bit more generic. And in that sense, you might just like to, I don't know, something as bland as just introducing yourself, saying who you are, showing people around your office, and so on and so forth, what you specialize in, and etc.
But I think all of us can just offer a little freebie course or something in some form, or a little email funnel that would just, it's a little freebie service to a client, which is made for anybody, so it doesn't target anybody, so they won't feel that they're being put under pressure to have to go with you, So I think that would still fit as a gateway, wouldn't it, into your products? You give something free, as long as it's followed up with the next move that you might want to, if you have some issues with these things, or you need somebody to help with you, you can move them into actually buying something off you. I just wonder, actually, with websites, I mean, I wonder if another route into getting clients is to help them on their, I know some do, help them on their existing website first before they would sell them a new website.
Wow, that is a controversial subject, isn't it? Are you talking about helping as in literally helping, like for free, or are you talking about helping as in just assisting as a, I don't know, on an hourly rate or something like that?
Yeah, I was thinking more for paid,
Okay.
But perhaps if you gave, let's say you put something on your web, imagine they're not going to go to your website if they're not looking for one, but perhaps you could find some way to find people where you gave them something of value about websites or digital marketing, and then still made yourself available to do tweaks on their existing site before perhaps leading to the fact that they might want to come with you wholesale on a new site at some point.
Yeah,
could be a route in.
To me, it all feels like the whole purpose of this is a trust building exercise. It's not so much about making them aware of your processes and how many website clients you've had before. At least that's it. If I were to spend more time doing this, that's the way I would want to frame it, is just a bit more personal, a bit more, this is who I am, this is what I look like, this is what I do, this is how I talk, this is the kind of things you perhaps could expect. A little bit more of a trust building exercise. I'm just wondering if all of this always has to be caught behind like a lead capture form, in other words. So in your case, you've done these videos. Do you put those videos out on a web page completely public facing, or do you have those behind an email address subscription form or something like that? At what point do you decide there's value in this but only exchange for an email so that I can contact you later? Or do you take the approach that, look, there's value in this for absolutely everybody, and all I want to do is build up trust and hope that some of that is sticky, so I'm just going to put it out there and let everybody view it, whether they put their email address in or not?
Yeah. That would make more sense, wouldn't it, actually, to put it just publicly. And but then, not everybody can do that, can they?
No, I mean, you're right. And a lot of people would find that, I suppose, objectionable, because you are, in a sense, giving something for absolutely nothing. But I think one of the things that this podcast has taught me is that doing something for nothing can actually reward you in ways that were unexpected. There's all sorts of things that have come about from doing this podcast, and here we are sitting here just chatting away, and it's just content. There's no paywall. It's just out there for anybody to grab, and some people seem to like that, and it has unexpected consequences, but it does create quite a lot of work in terms of actually doing it. And I suppose at some point you've got to justify it for yourself. You can't just keep making courses and never convert those people, unless somehow you are independently enormously wealthy.
Yeah. I mean, these things are really difficult. I mean, it's very easy for the stuff that we buy a lot of, which is WordPress plugins and apps. And with products like that, it's very easy for them to just offer a free trial, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean you get that all the time,
Just,
don't you? You know, try the SEO plugin for 15 days or something like that. Try
yeah.
this, that, and the other, and that it's perfect because you are actually buying a product which is pre-built. So in a sense, it's a bit like buying a car or buying something like that. You know, you're allowed to go and test drive it around the road for a few hours and what have you. And here's our plugin. We believe it's great. Try it for a couple of weeks. If you don't like it, no big deal. We'll either refund your money or we won't charge you in the first place. But website building, you can't do that, can you? You can't get 15 days into something and then them say, actually, you know what? I'm not liking it. I'm just not going to pay you. So it is really different, and I don't know what the perfect answer is. But I do like the audit, but I'm wondering if there's other ideas around it as well.
I've got a few, and some of them I've partly done, but they're not going to suit most people. It's just my experiments into the idea of moving more towards training people. So I've got my live demo site, which has got some templates on it, and it's got Beaver Builder in and some of the plugins there, and it's all made simple. And it's somebody signs to that, they get a little video that explains how they can use it, and they've got it for 7 days. Now this is all great, but I haven't really tried it out because recently it's only been returning customers, so I haven't had the opportunity to see if that's going to help new people to make the decision to come with me, because I've not bothered showing it to people who already know.
But yeah, so what's the messaging on that? Are you going to be kind of like reaching out to? I mean, clearly the whole here's how to use Beaver Builder video series is of very little use to people who are already using Beaver Builder because they've probably understood it. So are you going to be sort of like putting a landing page together and then driving traffic to that with, I don't know, cold email or paid ads, or how are you going to do that?
No, it's not so much about that. I'm just really using that as an example as a stepping stone product, if you like, a freebie that somebody can try. So they've already needed to have made contact with me before they get to find out about that. So in this case, they would need to have some intent that they're thinking about having a website done and they're considering me. And then I would just say, oh, yeah, we do this and this is how we work. You buy a book a day or so many days or whatever. But first, if you want to try out what you're getting, in terms of the website itself, there's an example there. You just go and sign in and you can play around so you can see how much you can do to be able to change your own website when it's finished. And that's
quite
the
a lot
idea
of work, isn't it? The amount of work that you must have put into that up front on the hope that people will get in touch with you and sign up in that way. How many hours do you reckon you've put into making those videos and setting up the demo install and presumably when they enter their email address, it spins up a demo in some way, shape or form?
Yeah, well, it didn't take me very long because I'm using a plugin, and there are a couple really that could be used anyway. People are using the WP Ultimo, which we like, don't we, as the concept, and there's the Moto Presses demo builder. So it doesn't take long if you've already just got a website built up and you just give them the editor access to the site, which clears away most of the stuff and just hide a few things. And I put one video that just says this is how you use it, so you can, so it's a nice thing there. But I haven't, like most things we talk about, I haven't really fully made use of the ideas yet. So I shall see that one over time. But it does fit into a sort of a kind of gateway. It is an attempt to allow people to try something. But of course, that's not going to work for all the people who like to keep the clients out of the website or want to just restrict it to very simple areas they can change.
Well, yeah, and I would imagine that's a significant proportion of the people who build websites. They don't really necessarily want the clients having complete control over everything, whereas you have a very different approach. You want them right from the get-go to understand how to use a page builder and hopefully do as much of it as for themselves as they can. So, yeah, that is slightly different from most people. But I'm just interested at the lengths that you've gone to there to set up that demo install. You see, my approach is so archaic compared to yours, and because I'm largely going to people's homes or offices, or I'm communicating via, I don't know, something like Zoom or what have you, I will do the exact same thing but face to face. So I will spin up a vanilla install of WordPress with something like Beaver Builder in it and a basic theme, and then I'll just show them how they could, how they can operate. So and it's not even on a sort of very polished level. It's just, look, you traditionally have a header here. Let's just drag a header in, and look, you'll notice that now I've got the option to amend that text, and I would do that by typing in here. And okay, underneath that, what if we put an image? Okay, let's see how you do that. And I just show them, and it's always very interesting to me that they're sort of mesmerized by how simple that process is. And so I don't really need to do that for very long. And after a few minutes, I say, oh, look at all these options down the left hand side, because I lock the sort of controls, the modules all on the left hand side. And I sort of say, look how many options there are. Look, we've got a portfolio one, and we've got a gallery one, and just very briefly explain. So, and then, kind of say something. And so you can see over time it becomes really easy to amend these sites, and you get a bit more experience with it, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't take long. It turns out that with most of my clients, most of them enjoy that moment, and then they don't really want to get involved with the page builder anyway. So it kind of pushes it back to me for the work. So I've never noticed that being an impediment to me actually having to build things, because although they're beguiled by how easy it is, they're also kind of, well, I don't have the time. Could you just do it?
Yeah. Do you know, well, that's interesting. How long have we been talking? I didn't know that you did that you showed them the page builder in the initial conversations.
Yeah. I mean, I don't always, as an example, a couple of months ago, I went to a building firm. They've got a great big office in town, and you could just tell that this guy was, I don't know, he just wanted to get his fingers on the computer. He just was that kind of a guy. He wasn't quite happy to watch me doing it. So I got it all set up, and I showed him a couple of things. I just pushed it over to him, and then he started dragging things in, and I got the job, built the site, and he hasn't touched it since then. So it was just it worked. It was just an effective sales pitch in a way. He was beguiled by the possibilities that at some point in the future he could amend things if he wanted to, but he's too busy. He's too busy with his building company. But it was a very effective way of demonstrating to him, and I feel that kind of was a pretty good gateway. But it's very labor intensive. I've got to get in the car, I've got to set up a demo, I've got to go and be there at the right time, and make sure that my calendar's free and all that. Whereas yours is much more, go to this page and just sort it out, watch the video. It's much less labor intensive when you repeat it. Yours was way more labor intensive to set up, but I think that by the time I've done mine twice, we've probably spent an equal number of hours.
Yeah, and do you know what? And this is one of my thoughts on this. I mean, there's just some people who are just going to want to play with their own websites, and some who are not. And in some ways, I don't think we necessarily have to sort of make it difficult for clients to do that. I think if you show them like you do, they just like the fact that it's there, but they probably won't touch their sites at all.
Yeah.
I think it's still a selling point, actually, often to show that the page builders these days, even if I know most of them won't be interested at all. And if they weren't, if they were the type of person who likes to fiddle around, they will just start fiddling around anyway. There was one client that I had who, when we was building their site with Genesis and everything was hard coded, it just wasn't 5 minutes before the guy started tinkering around with it. Clearly must have just didn't know any PHP, but clearly had done what I do, sort of understood how this section was connected to this page on the PHP template, and just moved it around. It was staggering.
Right, interesting. So, I mean, that's interesting as well. Each person is going to want to have a different gateway to each other person, and I suppose in the end, you've got to decide what your niche is and what kind of thing that they're going to respond well to. We're going to get a bit of pushback on this, though, aren't we? I suppose in that we are advocating, or at least the discussion is dwelling around the idea of doing a ton of stuff for nothing at the beginning, and I know that a lot of people will probably find that objectionable. The idea is that you should be paid for everything. Even things like discovery sessions should be paid, but perhaps that's not the way that it always has to work.
No, but do you know what? I think discovery that can still work, can't it? I mean, I think you could probably start with a paid offering that is less risk than the main website. So if you're trying to sell a 10K plus website or something, that's a lot of money to take off somebody. If you offered as your sort of gateway product, stepping stone, a no risk discovery period where you offered to work with them to scope out the project that they're talking about, something that you would clearly say they could use to go to anybody if you don't want to go with us, then it's a kind of stepping stone, isn't it? There's less risk, something they still needed to do.
Yeah. Do you do much of that kind of discovery? I mean, I know that you're not going to be doing it in person, but do you do it? Do you actually spend time in that sense, or do you just sort of crack on based upon materials that they've sent you and forms that they filled in and whatnot?
Yeah, I've sold a couple of discovery periods before, but they've been just not what I thought they were going to be as a product. They really weren't. I thought we were going to be talking about kind of user identities, that kind of thing. And really, when I needed to pull it out is when somebody couldn't get their brief together for me. We really had to sort of flesh out what it was that their site needed to do for them, on the technical point of view. And I also had to say, I'm going to need to, if we're doing this fairly cheaply, I'm going to need to see whether there are plugins or way in WordPress where we can do it without it being costly. So you'll need to pay for me to just check that's possible. So that's the only time I've really ever used Discovery for that kind of thing.
So your experience was you weren't that convinced by it. It didn't work in your sense. I think the discovery process, I mean, I have to be very honest about this. I don't do an awful lot of this other than sitting down and having a chat and going through my documentation where I try to get out of them what it is that I need. It's not less about what they need, if you know what I mean, because like I said many times before, I'm dealing with local clients and I often know what their business is all about anyway. But I'm not very confident in those situations. I don't really feel like I'm yet what's the right word, particularly effective at that. I think that I'd be better hiring somebody in if I got the £10,000-20,000 website where we really needed a deep dive. I think there'd be people who'd be positioned to do that much better than me, because I often go down blind alleys and talk about the wrong things or ask the wrong question, then discover halfway through, oh, good grief, we've wasted half an hour and I'm really not where I wanted to be. So yeah.
The people who talk about paid discovery periods as a sort of gateway, the only people I've heard talk about that, Chris Lemmer does that, but he's kind of known for producing so much content and for being somebody known for doing consultations. So I wouldn't, somebody's not going to come to me and I'm going to be able to offer this because they're not going to trust me on that to even start that process. So it's not been an option. It's only been it's not really, my discovery period has never been used as a stepping stone to doing a website with me. They've already decided it. I just wanted some money up front before we commit to how much it's going to cost really, or how much time it's going to take. That's it.
Towards the end of the document that David and I always share when we do these podcasts, you've put a list of kind of like 9 possible ideas. Now, I know that we've gone through a few of these already, but maybe it'd be a good idea to just riff around some of these other ones. You've mentioned freebie website reviews and the product ladder, freebie courses and email funnels we've mentioned, discovery period you've done, live demos. So that's me. That is where I fit. Number 4 on your list, live demos. I'm more than happy to do that. I really enjoy doing that actually. And the reason I like doing that is largely because I don't feel that I'm doing anything new. Essentially, I'm just doing what I do on a day-to-day basis. I run through building pages with, in my case, Beaver Builder and WordPress, and it feels completely organic. And I'm also in a real comfort zone there in that if they ask me any questions, I can offer the answer because I probably know it. Whereas with some of the other ones, I've never put together the freebie course. I just don't have the time to do that, and I don't have the inclination to do that. So that live demo fits me really well. What's this webinar thing? How would you run a webinar? What are you thinking there? Gather people up for like a once a month session?
I think I can think of one person who's done that. A friend of ours, Clark Marshall. They ran a webinar once. So they had a contact in a certain niche, and they ran a webinar for them, which I think was just generally more about using their websites for marketing. But within that, they were able to sell on their services and how they can help with that website that they might want. So that was a nice little freebie stepping stone.
That's a really interesting idea, actually. I suppose you'd have to market that within an inch of its life and really hone in on what it was, because people attend webinars for, yeah, well, I think mostly they don't watch it like it's television. It's not for entertainment. They go with a purpose in mind and they're hoping to fix a problem. So if you could figure out what it was. So, for example, there's a chap in our Facebook group who's often making lots of very fabulous comments, who's called Chris Hughes, and he owns a website, a WordPress management business, whereby he'll take over the maintenance and the upkeep of your WordPress website. I can see webinars fitting perfectly for him, because each month he could do something about the typical problems that are, faced by WordPress website owners, and then towards the end he could get onto how his business would solve all of those and take those headaches away, whilst also giving value along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. But because mine's just generic, I'll build any kind of website. I don't really feel I've got the messaging right for that, because I think people show up to a website not wanting something generic, usually something a bit more specific.
Yes, that's the thing, and it does take some. I mean, if you know someone, I think in their case it was fine. They knew someone that had a big group, I think, for coaches, and they could just advertise their webinar, which was going to talk about what they knew, and that might be of use to the people who were, training to be coaches themselves, and I think that worked for them. But I think it would be hard how to reach the people in the first place with that. I guess there are lots of business networks where perhaps you could advertise within them for a particular, I don't know, just because a lot of those people just won't know what they can get out of digital marketing. So you could do that and then try to sell your website services on the top of it. It's an interesting
idea, though, because with my model of going out to people's offices, I'm permanently on a 1-to-1 ratio. Literally, it's me demonstrating how I can help to one business, and I do it one at a time. Whereas with the webinar, you might see it as a complete failure if only one person showed up, but it's still the exact same odds as me turning up to an office. But I still do that, and I've got the additional problem of mileage and driving and time scheduling. Whereas if you did the webinar, it wouldn't be a failure if one person showed up. That would still be, in my eyes, a success, because you've still got the same odds. And you could then talk to that one person. All right, Jeff, it looks like it's just me and you. Let's have a real proper chat, because it's. But if you turned out to be very good at it, you could have 2, 3, 10, however many people came on the line. So I think that webinar idea is actually quite inspired.
Well, we move on to the next one, which is just more my silliness again. We had a whole episode talking about my poster, didn't we?
Yeah.
That I was going to put up in, which I never did. I still keep holding back on this. So this is connected with the latest idea on what I might do if I'm desperate to try and pull in some more customers from London. So the next time I might, when we go to London, put up a poster that just has a live event at where we live, which can accommodate a number of people around the table, probably sort of 10 to 12 people, and have a free make a website with WordPress half-day event or something. Really costly. But I actually think that a freebie like that might attract a lot of people. Just looking around at the courses there are offering that kind of thing, they seem to get filled, even when they're charging quite a reasonable amount. So I'm suspecting, this is my theory on this, that if people did come to that, they would see the basics of what you would teach people, perhaps, how easy it is to, say, spin out a site with something like Astra Sites or something like that, which rely on a page builder. But if you showed them how much more they could do with you, you might pull some people in. So I don't know. This is an idea that it certainly probably won't be done this year, but it's just an idea out there really that I'm playing with.
I think that's inspired. I guess it requires a certain temperament, doesn't it? It requires you to be a a raconteur. You've got to have the ability to stand up in front of people and confidently speak to the room and realize what your audience is and why they've showed up and get your messaging right. But I think you'd be very good at that. It's just there's a quite an expense, isn't there? You've got to make sure you've hired a suitable place, presumably, make sure there's food and drinks available and all of that kind of stuff as well. And it's not something I've ever entertained, but I think I know, because you and I again know people who've done this, and it's been tremendously successful. It's managed to in one afternoon gather them heaps of business.
Yeah, it's worth taking a punt on something like that. I mean, particularly if you've got the space that you can do it without having to hire at great expense a place, particularly in London. So that's why I've been thinking it's a great an opportunity to do that, and particularly with the free advertising, with so many people going past a railway station. It's one to try out, so it's not going to be available to most people, but at least it's another way in. But again, it's not going to work for many businesses. If you really want to be commanding high prices, this isn't going to work for you, is it? It's going to work for me.
Okay, so the next one was number 7. Interesting, putting some kind of forum together or a group. Well, I think a lot of people have made this their thing, haven't they? You only have to log into Facebook and see the endless different kinds of groups that are out there. The idea of being the sort of thought leader in a particular group, whether it's marketing or building sites with Beaver Builder or building sites with Elementor. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you're the person who's curating, moderating, posting frequently in those groups, it doesn't have to be your own group either, I suppose. You can do that through other groups. I wonder, how many times have you seen in, not so much the WP Builds group, to be fair, but in other Facebook groups, an exchange where work has come out of it. Somebody expresses a problem, and then a few moments later, it's clear that they've hired somebody to do it. That happens quite a bit.
I always wonder about that, because it seems like quite another thing that would be quite costly, because if you run a group, generally you're going to be providing a lot of information to people about how they can do it for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's just a follow on from what I was saying earlier, but I just wonder how much work there is in that for the person who's going to run that group and the time it's going to take them.
Yeah, it seems like forums, self-hosted forums, have kind of died the death in the tidal wave that is Facebook and so on. So it's just an interesting idea, though, and something that you can set up in a heartbeat. You've got to be committed to it and keep going back, haven't you? And what's this thing about Gillette razor blades? What's that all about?
You know what? That's interesting, because I wrote this down and then I saw Bryony's own comment about this. So with product businesses, she mentions the gateway offer being a free sample like disposable razor blades. So the Gillette model, I was introduced to this concept, never heard of it before, but there are a bunch of people, and I'm still very attracted to this, who, if you like, reverse the logic. The website is almost the cheap product that you put out there to engage people so they will take on your hosting and care. And it's taking that razor blade model, because you've got the disposable razor blade, and the core product is that kind of baby. You've got all of the extra things. You have to have you're given the holder for the razor blades, but you have to keep buying razor blades for that holder all the time, don't you?
Yes.
So the website, and I am attracted to that. Again, it's something that's not going to appeal to most people. And I think if you're trying to charge for a high value product with a website, much of these gateways aren't going to work, are they? They're about offering something free. But it does, it does appeal to me, that idea of keeping the website costs very low, or at least a basic site to start with the idea that you might get that lifetime value from that customer as they increase what they want to do with their websites, as they continue to pay you for the hosting and maintenance. So yeah, that's the Gillette model, really.
That's fascinating. It's really interesting. You're always full of these fascinating ideas. What's the last one? Excuse me, I've just got a frog in my throat. Something about freebie tiers.
No, it was just a stupid idea. I think we should move on. The thought was, because, well, I'll just explain it now, because, we've got the websites as a service model, haven't we, was out there. And, most of those offer, as Wix, Weebly, Squarespace do, a free tier to attract people in to try it to buy. And I just wondered, and it's just a thought, whether that ever could be used to move people to a full service version of a website.
It feels like that the tide is going in the opposite direction, not in that direction. So it feels like you'd be struggling against the tide, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, you know what, though? As soon as I've said that, I've just realized there is an example. Again, same friend, Clark. I think he's actually done something very similar to that, actually. I think because he's got two businesses, effectively. One is DIY and one is their custom work, and I'm sure he's had people convert from the DIY to the custom because they've gone in and they provide the support as well for doing the DIY, but they've just gone, you do it first.
Yeah, just get fed up with actually maintaining it, and a little bit like my guy who was beguiled with the page builder, but then quickly got back to the stresses and strains of running a successful business building houses, and realised he didn't want to actually have anything to do with his website at all.
Yeah, and the difference is, of course, with Clark, this isn't a freebie tier that he's offering. They still had to make some commitment to going into their DIY, but it is still a possibility, isn't it? Very low cost option to build your own website using, these tools that we now have, particularly WP Ultimo. It's getting a good plug for free, isn't it, today?
Yeah, it really is.
You can kind of set these things up. But yeah, the freebie tier would scare the life out of me, because the idea that you would have to pay for the hosting for somebody who never moved off it.
Yeah, I think a freebie trial period is better than a freebie tier. I mean, obviously, in the you go to a SaaS app, there's always a free tier, isn't there? Just about, but it's so hobbled as to be utterly useless normally. I can't think of too many apps where the intention is to give something that's useful. Although, having said that, I think Elementor, a lot of people just use the free version of Elementor and are quite happy with it. But anyway, they've clearly managed to upgrade most of those people onto their paid plans, so that's good. Well, David, to be honest, we're on 47 minutes. Is there anything urgent that we missed out towards the bottom of our document, or are we basically done?
No.
Do you want to give it? There was one. Go on.
Well, there was one thing that we talked about, which we skipped over, which was just about the whole speculative design thing. I don't know if it's worth discussing that before we go.
Let's go for it, yeah.
Yeah, because when I came into building sites, that was the big thing. Everybody was saying, no more speculative design. It's evil, it's bad, it's just wasting your time. But yeah, I just wonder now whether we've gone far enough to change that approach, because there are so many templates, so many free examples and free images and icon sets and all that we could easily throw together a lot of example home pages, and all you need is a PDF to show somebody that if somebody's asking you for a design of what do you think our website should look like, I don't see why you can't pull something almost off the shelf, slightly change it a little bit, and hand that over as a sort of speculative design to sort of engage with somebody in the first steps to whether they might want to come with you.
Yeah, I think when that was all being shouted about, don't do any designs, a speculative design, it was because it was actual labor. Whereas now, websites, because of the way that they are built now, it's all rows, and the rows can be templated and the pages can be templated, and you can literally throw together a half decent web page in a matter of minutes, so long as you're not trying to do the SEO and you're not trying to get the messaging bang on. You can throw together something which looks half decent. I don't know that I'll be doing it. I don't know that I'll be spending a great deal of time building mock-ups for people, but I can see that if it takes seconds, especially if there's a process of automating it. We had an interesting chat before we recorded about how you could combine something like ACF with a page builder and within minutes fill out 5 or 6 fields that were specific to their business and have those like merge tags, if you like, populate an entire website. You could have that done in a few seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the setting it up. It's always the setting it up which is troublesome. Okay, so next week, or not next week, next time you and I have a discussion episode, we're going to be doing leak number 5, which is something to do with approving, no critical approval. But we won't get into that just yet.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that's about. It's under the same category here. It's all about kind of trialing that stage where people might have an interest, but you need to sort of move them on a small step. So it's in the same sort of section. So it'll be interesting, this one.
Yeah, you need to go and read the correct chapter and swat up before then. But nice. Thanks for chatting with me today, David. That was lovely. Well, there we go. Another interesting episode. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found some of that useful. I do like these discussions with David, and it's this whole topic of trying to mop up areas where we might be leaking clients before we've even got them as clients is really interesting. And certainly try as you buy is something that I use all the time in the real world. I want some shoes. I'm going to try them on. I want a phone. I'm going to play with it in the shop before I buy it. And so coming up with some ideas of the kind of things that we could do to enable clients to do that without us having to build the entire website first seems like a really sensible idea. Hope you enjoyed the episode. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by Page Builder Cloud. If you want to dramatically speed up your WordPress website workflow, then check out Page Builder Cloud. It securely saves all your templates to your own cloud, and you can then reuse them on any other website in seconds. Page Builder Cloud works with Elementor, Beaver Builder, Breezy, Gutenberg, and many more. It's not just for page builders though. You can save your contact forms and ACF layouts too. So, get a free trial today at pagebuildercloud.com. And WP and up. 1 in 4 of us will be directly affected by mental health related illness. WP and up supports and promotes positive mental health within the WordPress community. This is achieved through mentorship, events, training, and counselling. Please help enable WP and up by visiting wpandup.org/give. Okay, join us next week. We'll have another podcast for you, or join us on Monday for the 2 things that we do. The news, which I pre-record, it's about half an hour long, and also the live news, 2 p.m. UK time, over at wpbuilds.com/live. I have some Latin cheesy music for you today, and I can certainly guarantee it's incredibly cheesy, so enjoy that. And bye-bye for now.